Hey everybody, welcome to Filmmaking Today. Boyan Dulabic here. In this episode, we're going to talk about the Fujian 35mm 1.7 lens, which is a great lens and it only costs about $30. So this is a very tiny manual lens that's actually made for CCTV security cameras. But with the right adapter, it can also be used on micro four thirds cameras, which makes this very versatile because it allows you to get some really unique shots that you wouldn't be able to get with other lenses. So first, let's talk about what it actually comes with. So there are different packages online, normally eBay or Amazon. The one I got came with the lens itself. It came with 2 macro rings, came with the adapter for a micro four third camera. You can get different adapters for different cameras. And it also came with the lens cap for the front and the back of the lens. Now, I would urge you to look at a package that also includes a lens hood. Because of the small size of the lens, it's actually hard to get any kind of standardized lens hood or ND filters or anything like that. So if you're able to find a package that includes all that, that's even better. Now, when it comes to photography, this lens can be a great asset, but it depends what it is that you're taking photos of. For example, if you're doing landscape photography, you have to keep in mind that because of the lens itself, you will be getting vignetting on the outside, so you get that distortion on the outside, which you can see here. So if you're not focusing on anything specific, if there's nothing in the center that should be drawing your viewer's attention to, it's kind of going to be useless. Like this photo right here, there's really nothing in the center and you're not really sure what you're supposed to look at. Whereas if this lens was distortion free, you could look at this photo and go, it's a nice photo of a building. I mean, it's nothing spectacular, but it could work. Now, if you look at this photo, for example, I am focusing on the path in the middle. You can see the silhouette of someone in the back and it works much nicer. Even this photo, because you got the sidewalk in the middle, it does seem to work. Here, obviously, you have an object there, so that draws your attention. And in those cases, the lens works really nicely. The distortion on the outside actually helps to draw the viewer's eyes to the object. So if you are photographing objects or people, this lens can be really nice and it can give you a unique effect that you wouldn't be able to get with other lenses. When it comes to video, you do have to be careful how you use this lens. As I mentioned, you do get this distortion on the edges, and it's not too bad, but it can get distracting if you're not using this lens properly. So for example, I'm using here the Olympus OMD EM5 Mark II, which has a crop factor of 2. And with that, as you can see, you do get a bit of a distortion on the edges. Again, if you're using it properly, if you have something in the center, this could work to your advantage, but it could also be distracting and it can be very limiting, especially if you have a micro four thirds camera that has a crop factor of less than 2. For example, the Fujifilm cameras, I think at least some of them have a crop factor of 1.5. So the distortion on the edges will be even more amplified, which can be a problem. Now, if you have the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, this lens is actually going to be a great asset. Because that camera has a crop factor of 2.88, the distortion on the edges, the vignetting, it's actually almost gone. I mean, I really can't see it. It's a little bit there, but it's very hard to see. So in that case, this lens is much more versatile. You can use it for landscape, videography, and all kinds of things. Now, the lens does give you a bit of noise, which again, depending on what you are going for, might not be that bad. If you do want a bit of noise, if you want more of a film look, this actually works really nicely. And especially if you're tweaking it in post, doing some color grading and all that kind of stuff, this lens can be very beneficial. Depending on what you're doing, could be your main lens. Another really cool thing about this lens is macro photography. As I mentioned, it comes with 2 macro rings, which means if you have both rings attached to the lens, it allows you to get really, really close to your object and take some really great close-ups of whatever it is that you're taking photos of, or video for that matter. And then if you remove one of the rings, you can just use one of them, and then you can be a little further away if you want more of the object in frame, which allows you to do some really interesting things. For example, here I took a picture of a toy that I have of Luigi from Super Mario Brothers. I used both rings. I came really close to it. Obviously, I'd work in Photoshop to add all kinds of things, but this lens allowed me to do that. Now, when you do macro photography, there is definitely some noise in the shot. You will have to remove some of it using Photoshop RAW or Lightroom, whatever it is that you use, but it does allow you to get some really interesting and unique shots. If you want to use it for video, that's also a really cool thing. You can get some video shots of products, close-ups, and that kind of stuff. Again, it's still a bit noisy, but the noise is manageable, definitely, especially if you do some cleanup work in post. Having the option of shooting with 1 or 2 rings gives you the flexibility to decide how close you want to get to the object. Here you can see one shot was shot with 2 rings, then the other shot here was shot with 1 ring, and then the last shot of this Vader action figure was shot without any rings, just the camera itself. I came as close as I could and still retained focus. Also, because the lens has an f-stop of 1.7, it really allows you to open up the iris and completely blur out the background and get some really, really cool shots. I mean, here you can see, for example, this is a Canadian quarter. I think it's the same size as a US quarter. And I was able to get a really nice close-up shot of it. The quality is definitely there. It's nice and sharp. It looks really cool. So in conclusion, I think this is a great lens for the price. The quality for the price is actually pretty amazing. I have a Panasonic 25mm 1.4 lens, and obviously that one is better than this one. However, that lens is also $500, and this one is $35 or even less, $30, $35, depending on where you are. That is just incredible that you are able to get this kind of a quality out of such a cheap lens. If this lens was $100, I'd be going, I don't know, there's other options out there. But because you can get it in some cases for even $25, I would argue this is a lens for everybody. Obviously, it is not as good as, again, for example, my Panasonic 25mm 1.4 lens. No, it's not as good. I would be stupid to tell you it's just as good or that it's better. No, it's not as good. However, considering the price difference, this lens comes definitely close enough to my Panasonic where I could use it for certain shots. If you are a professional, I don't think you should use this lens as your main lens. No, absolutely not. But you can use this as your B lens, as a backup, or for certain shots. Like I mentioned, if you are doing macro photography or videography, if you want that type of a distortion you get on the edges, for certain occasions, yes, you should definitely use this. If you are a person just starting off and you just spend, let's say, $1,000 on the body of a camera and you just blew your budget, you got basically almost nothing left, well, get this lens. Play around with it. It will allow you to do some really cool stuff and then, save up your money to get a more expensive and slightly better lens and use this one for other things. So there are a few things to keep in mind. As I mentioned, the distortion, you got to keep that in mind. You got to work around that and make it work for your workflow. The other thing to keep in mind, this is a manual lens. So if you are used to shooting with automatic lenses, it might take some time to get used to it. This isn't a lens where you can just walk around and take quick snapshots that I normally love to do because it just frees me up to be creative. These are the only things you definitely should keep in mind when it comes to this lens. So that's it, guys. My affiliate links for this lens will be in the notes section. Check them out. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it definitely helps me, helps the channel grow, and helps me buy more lenses and review them and all that kind of good stuff. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with others. Follow me on all the social media platforms. Just type in my name, Bojan Dulabic, or Dulabic Studio. All right, thanks, guys. See you soon. Bye.